Happy Wednesday. I have a couple of notes for you at the top. Today, Secretary of Housing and Urban Development Marcia Fudge released a statement committing to do everything in HUD's power to stop evictions for families with HUD assistance or families who rent in housing that is insured by the Federal Housing Administration. This is part of delivering on what the President we announced in our statement just a couple of days ago. And while the emergency rental assistance funds are in the hands of state and local governments, one of the critical roles that the administration can continue to play is to act as a leading hub to convene states and cities and to share best practices, as we have done at two major eviction prevention summits. So this morning, Treasury published examples of simplified forms that are being used effectively by emergency rental assistance programs around the country. I think Ebony may have asked a version of this yesterday, a question about this, but Treasury has repeatedly discouraged undue documentation burdens, the limit access for eligible families, and is sharing these example forms to make it easier for state and local governments to put that into practice. Places that are seeing results. I mentioned Virginia yesterday, but as an example, Virginia is the second highest nationwide distributor of ERA funds in the nation and has given out $223 million to tenants and landlords in need. Virginia followed Treasury's guidance to eliminate documentation burdens that slowed down application processing for eligible families, and the state was able to significantly cut down application processing times by streamlining what is often the most time-consuming part of the eligibility verification and a barrier for people applying. So this is a process that we're trying to share best practices, and the Treasury Department is trying to simplify these forms to make it easier for families. As I mentioned yesterday, we're going to continue to highlight what the bipartisan infrastructure deal will mean for families across the country, as we will digitally as well. Right now, there are up to 10 million homes with lead service lines and pipes. Children in up to 400,000 schools and child care facilities are at risk of exposure to lead. For kids, high exposure to lead can negatively affect academic performance and can lead to cardiovascular disease later in life. And the President clearly thinks that's unacceptable, as do a number of members of Congress. And that's why the deal makes the largest investment in clean drinking water in American history, replacing all of the nation's lead pipes and service lines from rural towns to struggling cities. The deal invests in water infrastructure across America, including in tribal nations and disadvantaged communities that need it most. I wanted to also take a moment to recognize the passing of Pentagon Force Protection Officer George Gonzalez, who was tragically killed yesterday in the line of duty. His life was one of service, a veteran of both the police and the military. He served the Federal Bureau of Prisons, the Transportation Security Administration, and the United States Army, where he was awarded the Army Commendation Medal for his service in Iraq. He lost his life protecting those who protect the nation. We mourn his loss and offer condolences to his family. Two more short notes, hopefully helpful. This morning at the White House, as part of our ongoing efforts to do everything we can and engage everyone we can to encourage vaccinations, Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy and members of the White House COVID-19 response team convened a historic gathering of all living former U.S. Surgeon Generals, including Dr. Antonia Novella, Dr. Jocelyn Elders, Dr. David Satcher, Dr. Richard Carmona, Dr. Regina Benjamin, and Dr. Jerome Adams. These esteemed public health leaders who served under both Republican and Democratic presidents discussed the importance of ensuring that communities of color, those hardest hit by the virus, have the information and access they need to get vaccinated. And they discussed how we can work together, of course, moving forward. Last point for all of you, the President spoke, or called, I should say, Shontel Brown last night, extended his congratulations to her. He is focused on delivering for the people of Ohio and across the country, as is she. We know his agenda, including investing in our country's infrastructure, helping grow our economy, creating good-paying middle-class jobs, is broadly popular with the American people. He's laser-focused on delivering. More Democrats means more ability to deliver on that. I knew you were up way too early this morning based on my television. I've been waiting to do that joke all week. Here we are. Go ahead.
I appreciate it. Thank you. A few questions all on the same topic, short ones, perhaps. Yesterday, the President said Governor Cuomo should resign. The governor has not done so. Has the President called the governor?
No.
Has anyone from the White House called the governor or the governor's staff?
Not that I'm aware of.
When was the last time the President and Governor Cuomo spoke?
I would have to check on that.
Okay, just two more on this. If the governor refuses to resign, does the President want to see him impeached and removed from office?
The President made clear yesterday that Governor Cuomo should resign. I believe we should start with that. There's obviously a process that's going to proceed, and leaders in New York spoke to that yesterday. We'll leave it to them to speak to that, but the president believes Governor Cuomo should do the right thing, resign, and leave space for future leadership in New York.
Okay. And then there's been a lot of discussion in here, including from the president in recent days, about the vital role that governors play in the nation's COVID response. In this period, while Governor Cuomo is still in office, does the president have confidence in him leading New York State's response to the pandemic?
Well, I think, again, the president made clear, because of the abhorrent allegations that were made public yesterday, that it is time for Governor Cuomo to resign. At the same time, we do not want the people of New York to be impacted in a negative way as they're working to fight COVID. And we're going to continue to work with the administration in New York, with leaders in New York, to continue to fight COVID. That will continue, and obviously if leadership changes in the state, we will work with a different leader. Go ahead.
Thanks, Jen. Can you walk us through what changed from Monday to Tuesday when it comes to the eviction ban? On Monday, Gene Sperling stood here and said the CDC has been unable to find the legal authority for even new targeted eviction moratoriums. There are many people across the administration who said the same thing, and yet the CDC did just that yesterday. So what changed?
Well, I think it's important to take a step back a little bit before that to Sunday when we were engaged, the administration, the White House was engaged directly with the CDC at the direction of the president to ask them to look into what legal options, if any, existed there were to extend the eviction moratorium. That process was underway for a couple of days. The announcement yesterday was a reflection of exactly that. And when we put out a statement on Monday, right before Gene Sperling came out to the briefing, right before we came out to talk with all of you, that also made clear in there that at that time they had not yet found a legal pathway forward. What was announced yesterday was not an extension of the existing moratorium, which was of course national. It was a more limited moratorium that was going to be impacting and helping areas that were hardest hit by COVID. So different than the last moratorium. That was also reflected in the statement that we issued on Monday, that was the president's ask to look into a more limited moratorium. They did that. And yesterday's announcement was a reflection of that process.